today we're going to dive into all the really fun things in Google Classroom. And so very first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go back to your classroom and I'm going to show you how to make an assignment. And so here we have, this is your classroom, and you can see I have a bunch of different classes. And I am going to click on Classwork, and we're going to add the assignment for how to set up your Google Classroom. And so one of the things that I've already done is I reused an assignment from another class. And so I pulled that in. So I said reuse, and here it is at the top as a draft. So I'm
Julie?
gonna, yes?
Okay, we talked yesterday. Are you going to have some step-by-step resources so that these guys don't have to try to write down everything you're saying so quickly?
Yes, and that's what, so once we post this, you guys are going to have step-by-step resources along with some different things to be able to do. So I wanted to kind of show you where this comes from. So that you can say, okay, this is how it materialized. One of the things that I've seen a lot of teachers that like in a lot of the classrooms that I've taken, Google Classroom does not really have any formatting capabilities in the assignment instructions. And so you're unable to like make this bold or add in bullet points or do any of those kind of things that you would normally do to help draw attention to things. One of the things you can do is you can right click and you'll have the Emoji Keyboard. And at that point, you can type in words, and if there is an emoji, you can use it. I tend to try to use some of the numbers just because it makes it easier. I like the checked boxes. And so as you are doing your assignments, you can, kind of think about that. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go through, and the instructions are printable, yes. So we're going to add two files to this this document, and then I'm going to post it. So everything that I have is in my Google Drive because that is where I've created it. And so I can search, I can browse. These are all where my recent files are, and so I have them. So I'm going to grab some collaborative slides. And the nice thing here too is I can grab as many files as I want. And I'm also going to grab some resources for you. So here we go. And yes?
I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt again. You mentioned this yesterday, but I just want to reiterate that you kind of wanted today to be watch what you're doing and not try to do this along with you as you were working.
Yes. So please don't feel like you have to do this along. This is more of a watch, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of time in a couple minutes to do some of these things too.
And then when she was selecting those files, if you hold down your control key and you click on a file, that's how you can pick files that aren't next to one another.
Actually, you don't have to use the
Oh, you
control
don't
key at
have
all.
to?
No, I just,
Awesome.
as long as I'm hanging out in there and adding files, I can click, and so I've got 2 selected right now, and I could click. I've got 3 selected, and then I can say insert, and it dropped in all these, and I'm going to now remove them because I don't want them. But yeah. The only thing that you cannot do at this point is, like, you can't rearrange your files. Like, so the order that they come in, the order you add them is the order they're going to show up. And that I'm hoping that is something that'll change in the near future. So within this, I've got two things I want to do. One is going to be a collaborative document where you can all edit the same document. And so this is where students can view the file. And so I'm going to say students can edit the file. This next document is one that I'm going to give to everybody. You don't have to, so that way when you guys are all done, you can submit this assignment. And so I'm going to say, instead of view file, I'm going to say make a copy for each student. And so now that I've made a copy for each student, when I post this, each one of you will get the assignment in your in your assignments. And so what you will is you will have an assignment that you can attach. And so you will have your file to attach. And the cool thing is it'll have your name on it and everything. The Google Classroom setting up your classroom. And then you will turn it in because you have a file to submit, and then it'll be good to go. So as we go through, so I'm going to now publish this, but two more things I want to look at before you do that is over on the right is where we have a lot of different options. I could assign this to just certain students in my class if I wanted to. I could assign this to multiple classes. And so say I've got 3 sections of a class, I can assign it to multiple sections. Though once I assign it to multiple sections, I lose that ability to assign to different students. I can set up the number of points that I want it to be. I can also say that it's ungraded if I want to. I can also talk about when its due date will be. And so I'll make this one's due date tomorrow. And we'll make it at 10 o'clock a.m. And then topics. This is what keeps your classroom organized. And so I'm going to drop it under Setup Google Classroom. Rubrics we will look at when we look at some grading because the rubrics are really awesome. And then we will also, this check plagiarism, you can use up to up to 3 times per Google Classroom over the course of the year. So now I am going to assign this one. I do want you to know that I could schedule it or I can save it as a draft. If I schedule it, I can actually get down to the time. And so if I wanted to have it show up just before class starts or at a certain time, I can do that. So here we go, and I'm going to click on Assign. And so it warns me that students are going to see their assignment immediately in their streams, and that's okay. Okay, so now when I go back and I look, I see the assignment is here. I see when it was posted. I see when it's due. Another really awesome thing here is I can click on these 3 dots and I can copy the link. And so I can paste that anywhere that you would need, you know, if you have a website, you can paste it on the website. If you send out an email, I mean, if you have if you're using any form of communication where you want to share a link, you can share the link to this assignment. And so it gives you those options. All right. So I'm going to jump over to me as a student because that's where you're at, and I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes to go to your Google Classroom, just like where we were yesterday, so we can look at all the resources and attachments that you have for this assignment. All right. So I want you to notice that I popped into my Google Classroom as a student, and you're going to see I see that I have an assignment right on the tile for my class for you guys, and that it's due tomorrow. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, so if I'm in multiple classes with multiple assignments, I will be able to see that across the board. So I'm going to hop in to our class, and I'm going to click on Classwork. And then here I see that I have this create a Google Classroom. Another thing I can do is I can see my upcoming, and I can click on that and it'll take me directly into the assignment. Something else that's really awesome as a student, remember I said make a copy for every student? That shows up over here in your work. And so as I pop in here, I can see that I have work to do over here. I also can see that I have another document attached. And the nice thing is, as a teacher, I can attach as many files as I need to, or as many resources. So if I want to attach a video to watch, I can do that. So let's take a quick look at the resources, and then we will go through your Google Classroom. So the first thing we're going to look at is the assignment document, so the one that's up under your work. And so I'm going to give you guys just a minute, and so if you want to just go ahead and get to your assignment and open that document. So each one of you is going to have your own copy of this document. And this can be something that you can print out. It is editable, and so you could um, take notes on it if you want. If we scroll on down the page, you're going to see that we go through a number of different steps for Google Classroom. And this is that, it feels like the kind of the, I don't know, boring part. But when we look at this boring part, these are all the things that, well, if you think about these now, it'll make implementing Google Classroom and using it with your students so much easier. So if I scroll on down the page, you're going to see that we're going to get started. And then you're going to, there's a to-do under every section. And so you're going to create a classroom.
Okay, Julie,
Yeah.
we're still getting people to get this to open. Can you slow down for
Oh,
just a second?
heavens, yes.
Okay, hang on.
That's okay. So why don't you guys go ahead and click on your participants tab. And as soon as you have it open, go ahead and click on the green check. All right, Tony, let's look at your where the assignments are at. So that's a great question. So what we're going to do is are you in your Google Classroom? Awesome. Okay. So at the top of your page, you'll see the stream, and then you'll see classwork. Do you see the classwork? And so once you're on the classwork, then you're going to see the work we did yesterday with the cloud storage and the Teams meetings. And then we have set up Google Classroom, and there is a create a Google Classroom. If we click on that, and say view assignment. Oh, you got it. Oh, good. Okay. Then you can find your work is where we really want to hang out. And then we'll come back around to the collaborative slides too. All right, so when you get your work opened, go ahead and click the green check on the Participants tab. And the Participants tab is at the bottom of your screen, and you should see it's got the little people on it. And once you open that window, at the very bottom of that window is where you see the green check, the red X. All right, so we've clicked on our work, and when we do that, we see a Google Doc, and that's our Google Doc. And so you can do whatever you want to it. You don't, it's yours. Structure of this document is every section has the information you need to do this part. And then there's going to be some questions or activities that you need to do. What we're going to look at is how to set up your Google Classroom. You'll see that we have a Google Classroom workflow that if you need like pictures and step by step, there's a Google Classroom workflow. And then there's also videos if you prefer to learn with videos. And so if you need something to refer back to, you have that. We're also going to look at the settings, notification, copying, and archiving, mainly because those are those kinds of things that it's like, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? Those are typically in the settings, notifications, etc. And so having that before you get too deep in will make your life a lot easier. So we're going to go through that. And then you're going to review your class settings and notifications and just make sure that you're happy with what you've got. Then we're going to actually look at organizing your Google Classroom and topics. You'll notice in the Google Classroom that you guys are working in, I have 3 topics going on. So 4 topics. We have materials, and then we have the kind of the topics of the day: cloud storage, Teams meetings, setting up your Google Classroom. And so these are all things that you can control, and this can be how you structure your classroom. And so a number of different resources there ask you about your structure. The stream. So we've done a little bit on the stream. Yesterday, there were some comments and information. I posted an assignment or posted a question. What do you want to have show up on your stream, and how do you control that? And then classwork. And so that's where you guys just were, is in classwork. And we have resources for how to create an assignment. And then Ditch That Textbook has ways to really make a good Google assignment even better. And so then your task is to make an assignment in Google Classroom. So you have all of, so this is all here. If you just want to work through this while I talk, I don't care. Go ahead and chat me questions. If you want to sit back and watch, know that each section has support, either Google Help or other articles that will support you when you come back to do this. And so this is a very supported document, but we're going to go through it live. Please ask questions in the chat, unmute, because there is a lot of best practices that can happen, that will make your lives a lot easier if we go through and do this, if you set it up the right way the first time. Okay, so let's get started. I know a lot of you took the Google Classroom course, so I know you've created a Google Classroom. And if you didn't create a Google Classroom for the course, you probably also dabbled in it this spring. And so Google Classroom is something that most of you are dangerous with. So to create your classroom, you go to classroom.google.com, you click on the plus in the upper right-hand corner, and you create a class. One of the questions that I've been getting a lot of questions about is like how many classes to create, especially for the specials teachers or the sped teachers. What does their situation look like? So for your SPED teachers, one of the really awesome things that you can do is it gives you that opportunity to push in. And so you can, maybe you don't create a classroom. Maybe you are just a co-teacher in a number of other teachers' classrooms where your students are. You can also create an individual classroom for certain students. And so one of the teachers that I worked with this spring, she actually created, she did not have 80 kids on her caseload or anything, but she created an individual Google Classroom for each student, and she found it really gave, not only helped with that parent communication because they could log in and as a student and see what the student needed to do, but it also helped with that reinforcement because they could easily go back and everything was all organized. It also helped them in the handing out of resources and everything because they could just share that content and reuse assignments. For specials teachers, this is where you're most likely going to want to create a class for every class that you have. And so if you're teaching 3 sections of PE, you're going to want to, 5th grade PE, you're going to want to have 3 5th grade PEs. So, section 1, section 2, section 3, or if you have them named, by the, PE and then the teacher's name, or whatever, however you want to organize that. But that will help you. You can share assignments, you can assign across multiple classes, so you have a lot of options there. And so it's not like you're doing the work 3 times, it'll just help you with the organizational structure. For elementary peeps, you can do a couple of different things. I have seen elementary teachers they create a classroom for, math, one for reading, one for science, one for social studies. I've seen that. I've also seen them use topics within one classroom. So, 3rd grade, Mrs. Erickson is, we just use topics. So, as you're looking at this and start thinking, the other nice thing is you can set up a class and copy it. And so you don't have to have you don't have to set up 3 or 5 or simultaneous classes. You can set up a class, get it the way you want it, and then copy it across. All right, so I'm making a demo class so that we go through and see all that. The only thing I have to name is my name. I'm going to click on create. And it will create. Yay! Okay. So you're going to notice right away that I have my stream here. So this is my class. I can customize this if I want. I can select a theme. I can also upload a picture if I would like. And so if there's something I'd like to upload, I can do that. And so this really is creating your Google Classroom. So that is the in totality. When you've done this, you've created it. And so I love how easy that is to do. So I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes to go ahead and create your classroom. And so as soon as you're done creating your classroom, go ahead and click on the green check. I'm going to clear my checks. So as soon as you're done, go ahead and click on the green check. And for those of you that have already created your classroom really quickly, that's awesome. I'm going to encourage you to pop in and look at that first day with Google Classroom on the Creating Your Classroom, because they have some great resources. They talk a little bit about the originality reports, which is something that, especially if you're in middle school, high school, you may want to look at. And so you can kind of check that out. So you create the class in your own, so you create the class as a teacher. So this is something that you would create the class as, and so you create the class as yourself. All right, so for those of you that are done, I'm going to direct you on to the collaborative portion of today. Those of you that aren't done, don't panic, it's fine. So when you are in your assignment, you're going to see that 003 Google Classroom slides. Those are collaborative slides. And so all you need to do is select a slide that doesn't have anybody else on it, write your name in, and then insert a screenshot of your Google Classroom and you can start filling out the answers. We're going to be going through a lot of this as we go, so you'll be able to, you don't have to fill out all the answers at once. All right, so I've got about half of you that have your Google Classroom done, and so I'm going to give you guys about another 5 minutes to look at creating your Google Classroom. Different settings in Google Classroom. So how do I do screenshots? Well, I just learned something the other day, and it's worth trying on yours. You can, if you hit the Windows key, if you have a Windows key and the Shift key and the S, it brings up a little little box at the top of your screen, and you can see you can either do a rectangular snip or a freeform or a window or a full screen. And so I can really quickly grab what I need, and then it saves it to my clipboard. So that's one way to do it. The other way that I typically, I just learned that. I didn't know about that. The other way I typically do screenshots is with the snipping tool. And so I go down to the bottom of where my search bar is, and I type SNIP, and I get the snipping tool. And when I click on that, that opens up a new little window. And at that point, I can say if I want a new snip, and I can grab what I want, and it saves it in the snipping tool, and I can copy and paste it and use it that way. So you have a couple of different options for doing screenshots. How many of you guys use the snipping tool right now? Go ahead and yes, no for me. It's 50-50. You guys. We're neck and neck here. All right, so more of you are using the snipping tool now than not, but the snipping tool is really life-changing because you can really quickly grab a screenshot, or grab a portion of the screen and use it. And so I use it all the time. So you'll get a chance to practice the snipping tool when you do the collaborative slides, that 003 assignment, where you answer some questions about your Google Classroom. Okay. So that is, that's the snipping tool. And that is setting up your classroom. That's creating your classroom. So the creating part, once we get done with that, the next things is looking at our settings, our notifications, how we can copy and how we can archive. And so I'm going to pop back over to my class, my demo class, and we're going to look at the settings. And so in your classes, your settings are for each class. And so I'm going to go up and I'm going to click on the gear in the upper right hand corner. And this is where I can rename my class if I need to, or add a description or a section, or other information. And so I can change my class details. As I scroll on down the page, this is where I start to see some general information. How your students join the class is through your class code. And so you can, right now, default is display. You can copy it. You can reset it if you want to. And then you can also disable it. And so say you have all your students in the class, you can disable it, knowing that if you have a new student join, you'll need to, enable it, but it'll be a different code when you enable it. the stream. And this is where I want you guys to chat with me and unmute. So when you guys used Google Classroom this spring, did you guys let your students post on the stream? You can unmute and chat with me. You can chat with me in the chat.
We're unmuting and we've got about 8 people in here. So I did let my students post in the class stream, but I made very clear that every student could see what they were commenting on, and that if it wasn't school appropriate, that they would be dealing with me, which made it so that not a lot of them commented on the stream. The private comments, however, I can't even tell you, I had thousands of private comments from the kids on different assignments. And I loved that. But the stream part of it ended up being mostly me for a class announcement. I will tell you though, that I had problems putting things on the stream because my kids would get notifications of that stream and they didn't necessarily realize it was going to the whole class at first. So when I would put out, remember your assignment's due today, I had like 10 students that kept sending me repeatedly their assignments because they thought I was sending them a personal message saying I hadn't gotten theirs. And so I started all of my streams with a little emoji that said, and then said, this is going to the entire class. Because when they would get a notification, they didn't know if it was just coming to them or if it was going to the whole class.
Right, right. And that is, and that's a good point. Just, you know, kind of like how does that work?
They would get a notification that I had posted something in the stream into
Right.
their email. That's where the confusion came in. They would get that notification in their personal email, so they thought it was personal to them.
Right. No, and that's I see that. And so somebody said they only had 2 students and one chose not to work, and so and then I'm trying to think. So anybody else allow students to? Did you use the stream? Did they post? How did that work? You can chat. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. Okay. So I'm going to go back to our class today and see that you guys I've not limited what happens on the stream. I'm letting students both create posts and comment. And so there's a lot of different posts on here along with, yep, I'll give you some more time to finish your assignment. We're not done with your assignment. You're good. So with this setting, but like as Cindy pointed out, I'm going to, let's see, I mean, there's nobody's done anything inappropriate, but I can delete this if I want to. And so if it was inappropriate or something that wasn't, you know, shouldn't be on the stream, I can delete this. And when I go back and look at settings, you'll see here that I can also limit what students can do. And so many times teachers will say that students can only comment, meaning that teachers can post and then the students can comment on that. And so that's a really great way to kind of ease into that. Nice. Somebody greeted their students daily on the stream. Yes, I love using it for those greetings that, hey, you know, good morning. And that it's a perfect tool for that. Um, and letting them know what's happening. So I love that. So the next thing that you can do on the stream is classwork on the stream. I personally have not been doing classwork on the stream because it gets really busy really quickly. And so what happens is if you do classwork on the stream, every time I post an assignment, it's posted on the stream along with the announcements, along with any other chat that is out there. And so it gets really cluttered really fast. And so I tend to not post assignments on the stream, and have students know that we can see what's upcoming on the left over here. We can also go to our classwork and see what's happening. So that's my personal preference. And that's totally up to you, how you want to do that. But it's something to think about. And then that show deleted items. So only teachers can view deleted items, but this is great. And so say I was going to pick on poor Anne and say that this is an inappropriate comment and I delete it. Sorry, Anne. So I'm going to delete her comment. And so it's gone. But in my settings, I can come back and I can show deleted comments and it will come back. And so now I can show people, I can have a conversation with Anne and I can say, Anne, do you know why I deleted your comment? Uh, and we can have that conversation. And so just so you know, it's not a but Anne, I mean, you're fine. I mean, I only deleted you because I was using you as an example. Um, so that's the deleted. And then guardian summaries. Guardian summaries are really awesome, because what they show is they send a daily email to parents, or parents can set up if they want it daily, but and what you get when you go in and look at it is you get missing work, upcoming work, and you get class activity. And so you get announcements, assignments, and questions. You don't get to see the discussions. And so like if the teacher posts an announcement that says, good morning, it's Wednesday, today is band and PE, and don't forget your field trip form is due on Friday. That will show up. But they won't see if somebody comments and says, oh, I forgot my band instrument, what do I do? You won't get that in the Guardian summary. How do Guardians get their summaries? You as a teacher have to invite. And so I'm going to pop over to you guys and we'll look at all the people in my class. And you're going to see here that everybody that's in with a K-12 or a Google Apps account. And so Michelle, I'm glad you're here because you are in as a Michelle Storms without, this must be your personal you. And this is your K-12 view. And so as long as you are joined with your K-12 account, you can invite guardians. And when I go down and I invite guardians, and so let me find myself. At that point, I can put in an email address. And it doesn't have to be a Gmail address. It can be anything. And then once I click on invite, oh, it says it cannot invite this guardian. Why? I have no idea. I apparently am making things up now. I've invited my personal me before. Okay. I'm not able to invite my guardian people, but you can. Judy, can I pick on you? Yeah. So I'm not in the K-12. This is me not in the K-12. And so for Judy, I will get an email inviting me to be a guardian. I can add more guardians if I want to invite more guardians. I can continue to invite, so if there's multiple people. One of the drawbacks is you do have to do this. I mean, like, you have to put in all of these email addresses for these students. However, in situations where your students are in multiple classes, if one teacher goes through and invites their guardians, the next teacher who has that student in their classroom and they turn on the guardian summaries, every student that already has guardians will show up with guardians. And so, like, when we look at this one, I see that Judy has a guardian, and so I wouldn't need to re-invite a guardian for her. So while it's kind of futzy to get it set up, it is really great because they get that regular email. And so guardian summaries are great. And then Google Meet. This is where, if you want to set up Google Meet, you can do that. I don't know if you guys noticed in your coursework that are on the stream at the top of the page. I have a link to generate the Meet link. I don't have it turned on, and so you guys don't see it in your class, but you could have that turned on and make it visible to students. And then this final section here is something that a number of you guys had asked about. Yep.
Will you kind of explain what Google Meet is? Because these guys haven't heard that before.
Oh yeah, sorry. So Google Meet is the Google version of Zoom, the Google version of Teams meetings. And so they are all approaching a similar functionality. Google Meet currently allows you to record your sessions, but after the 30th, unless you do an add-on, you will not be able to record. But you have unlimited meetings. They do have, they've created so that you have a grid now, so that you can see multiple people on the screen. You can share your screen. You do not have as many bells and whistles as you do in Zoom. But it is a really great tool if you are trying to do a quick meeting. And so I can add in some resources. I'll add in some Zoom, Meet, and resources to go along with the Teams resources. So you just kind of have all your virtual meeting stuff all together, okay? And that way you can kind of decide what you want to do. So the last section of your setups is your grading. So you can choose a grading system. And so your options for grading system are, you can do total points grading or weighted by category grading. And so,
Really?
yep.
We are not using the grading system in Winter School District that I am aware of, because we are
Excellent.
required to put it all in DDN campus. So about the
Okay.
only thing you're going to see in grading is if it's been turned in or not.
So, but you can assign points and you could add grade categories. We can download your grades as a spreadsheet. I mean, and so the grade so I guess if you want to use the grade calculation, you are totally welcome to play around with that. The grade categories I've found to be very useful, because I can say, you know, this is a test and it's worth 100 points. I can say this is an essay and it's worth 50 points. And I can say this is a quiz and it's worth 25 points, for example. And so now when I go back out and I make assignments, it's just a lot easier to say this is in the test category, this is in the essay category, and have those points, have the default points show up. And so the grading and the grading categories, I use the grading categories. I don't really use the grading calculations, just because I mean, everybody that I've worked with uses either Infinite Campus or um, something else,
Right. I
whatever
agree
Rapid
with you.
does.
I totally agree with you to put in those grade categories. The problem otherwise with the grade calculations too is we use weighted grades. Some of us do, and you can't do that I know of. Can you weight those categories?
Yeah. So in our oops. So I clicked something I didn't want to click. So I can do weighted by category. And so now I can come back and I can say a percentage, you know, like a test is worth 50%, my essay is worth 25%, and my quiz is worth 25%. So yeah, I can do weighted by category if I want. So, I mean, this is one of those things that it is in such a weird spot that you would never, you know, like when you go, there's nothing to tell you when you're making an assignment that you have I mean, there's like a grading category, but there's nothing there's nothing to clarify that for you. And so this is one of those things that it's like, oh, in the settings, I can set up my grades. So settings is where you get a lot of control for what students can do on the stream, your class code, your classwork on the stream, so kind of what your class looks like, and then also your grading and how you want your grades to be set up. I've really liked just using the grading categories, but you can, like I said, weight by percentage if you want to too, so you don't have to just use the categories like with points. So that is the settings. The next thing over is your notifications. And this is also one of those things that when we're working with our students, you do want them to get notifications for things. And you also want to know that they can turn those off. And so when they say, yeah, I didn't get a notification about that, it may be on them and they've turned it off. And so you can say, hey, you know, let's look at your notifications, because some of that responsibility does lie on them to make sure they have their notifications. So 2 resources here to help you with your notifications. There is the Google support on how to turn notifications on or off, customize, etc. And I'm going to, we'll pop in and look at those. But then I also love the Stitch That textbook article, because he really talks about how to use the notifications to your advantage. And so it's not like you're getting overwhelmed with notifications. Come on. So while he's loading, I will move over to notifications. So notifications we find on the hamburger menu at the top of our Google Classroom on the left-hand side. And so when I click on that, this is where I'm going to see all of the classes that I'm teaching, all of the classes that I'm enrolled in. And then at the very bottom, I'm going to see my settings. And so if I pop into my settings, this is where I can change my profile picture. And I can talk about notifications. And so I do have my email notifications on, but then I can turn on and off what I get notifications on. And so I can get notifications on private comments. I can get comments that mention me, comments on my posts, you know, and so because I'm the teacher, I will get a lot of comments on my posts usually. And so I tend to not have those on. I just make sure I check them. Classes that I'm enrolled in, and so you guys are in this class as a teacher, and so this is something that you would want to check and see what you get notifications as, and this is what you would want your students to be aware of. And then you have the classes that you teach, and so what do you get notified of? And so these really, I mean, like late submissions of student work, that's not a biggie, you know, because it might be nice to get notified of that. Resubmissions, that would be, I've sent it back to you because you're not done. Can you come back and finish it? Invitations to co-teach classes, and then finally if a scheduled post published or didn't post, and those are those kinds of things that I typically do want to know. And so I've left all these notifications on. But the biggie is at the very bottom of the page. You have the little down caret, and here we can turn on and off notifications for a class. And so here I can say I want, you know, the new demo class. I'm going to turn the notifications off. I'm leaving them on for Google Classroom for you guys. I'm turning them off for this class, you know, and so you can turn on and off notifications. So this is where, so if your students come in and say, yeah, I'm not getting notifications, this is probably why, and just know that they can set that up. So I'm going to go back to the hamburger menu, and we're going to look at our classes. And so love this because things that have changed since I started working with Google Classroom 6 years ago. You can drag and drop your classes around. And so it used to be you had to set them up in the order that you wanted them to appear. And so if you wanted to have period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you had to create those classes in the right order. Otherwise, they would appear in a mixed up order and you couldn't rearrange them. So that's one of my favorite things. So you can rearrange your classes as you want. This is me as a teacher. So when I'm in, I see how many students I have here. I can see assignments that are due. I can pop in to Gradebook right off the bat. I can also go for the folder for this class. When I click on the 3 dots or the skinny snowman, this is where I can move, edit, copy, or archive my class. And so all moving does is lets me move it around. I mean, so I can also drag it. And so fine, whatever. Edit brings up the name. And so we also saw this in the settings, but you can edit it from the tile too. Copy will copy your class. In your notes, you're going to notice that when you copy a class, I did bring over from the help the things that are copied and things that don't copy. And so when you copy, you get all of your class information, the stuff that you named the class, the topics. Your posts are as drafts, and your grading system. And so if you set up your grading system, it will move over. What doesn't come over are your announcements, any deleted work, student posts, attachments that you didn't have any permission to copy, and Google Sites files. And so those will not come over. So when you are creating a class, so you're creating your PE classes, you most likely will use the same grading structure and the same topics across different sections, potentially across different grades. So you could create one class and then copy it as many times as you needed it. So know that you can utilize this copy feature really easily. And then the archive feature, what the archive feature will do is it will, so I'm going to archive this demo class that I just made. What it does is it will move it to my archived classes. And so it will be something that won't show up on my active classes tiles. And so if I click on archive, boom, it goes away. And I don't see it anymore. How do I get it back? I can go to my hamburger menu. I can scroll down to the bottom, and right above settings, I see archived classes. And here we see the classes that I have archived. I can click on the three dots and I can restore it, and that will bring it back. This is also where I can delete it. And so just so you know, you'll have noticed that I don't have an option to delete a class here. I can only archive it. But if I want to delete a class, I have to archive it and then go find it in the archive, and then I can delete it. So just so you know how that works when you're in that. So that is your notifications and all of the really kind of exciting things that will make your life so much easier in managing your Google Classroom.
Julie, why
Yep.
would you ever want to archive a class?
Just to keep my classes from getting too out of control, because I don't necessarily want like every year I can archive all my previous year classes. I can still pull assignments from them, but I'm not dealing with them on my active classrooms. It does, when you archive it, it has the students no longer have access to it. So I tend to archive them. I tend to archive older classes, but I don't. It just depends. It just depends. But yeah, that's why I would archive them.
Okay, so you said, and that's what I did. I archived last year's, but you said that then last year's students will no longer have access to any of those files, but they're still in their Google Drive, right?
Yes, they are.
So how do you prevent last year's kids from sharing files to this year's kids? As teachers, we have no control over their Google Drives.
I don't know what to tell you on that one. I mean, I guess I don't really. I you're going to so when we're looking at your assignments and when you're looking at what the students are turning in, I mean, there is nothing to stop them from going back and reusing the book report that they did last year, or even sharing their book report with little Timmy and he can turn it in. There's nothing to stop them from doing that. I guess I don't want to say the things to think about as we move into more of an online realm is, what can we do with our assignments to, I mean, because the kids are also, they're on the computer, they can Google it. What's stopping them from going out and Googling the answers, or Googling and finding a book report that they can turn in? And so at that point, it's a, like, they've added that plagiarism checker. And so, I mean, you can implement that a couple times a year. You can use it 3 times per class, for free. And so utilize that. If you think you're having problems, and say, hey, I can tell when you're doing this. You don't have to say I can only do it 3 times a year. You can also do things like a lot more of the collaborative work, which means that, or stuff that doesn't necessarily have, like when we use Jamboards and Google's collaborative slides, those are things that students are able to work together on. And so it's not so much I'm going to go out and I'm going to find last year's file and reuse it. Maybe I am going to pull up last year's file and use it as a tool, but I'm not going to be able to copy and paste it because I'm working with with another student. So I guess it just, with everything being online, that is really, really hard.
Can you with the version history? So if Jimmy turns in an assignment and I go back and check the version history and it says that last year's Jane was the person who worked on it, Is that going to show up?
So it depends on how savvy Jimmy is. So yes, your version history will be, I mean, if Jimmy just takes Sally's file and renames it and turns it in as his own, the things, and so like, let's see, we'll look at my version history for this file, because I took another file and made copy of it and edited things. And so I can see all of the edits that I did. But it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't show what it was before. Does that make sense? Well, it does too. So I can see the edits that I've done on this file. You can tell, I mean, like like if somebody copies and pastes in a document that I've written, and then they copy and paste it and then they send it out, and you look at the version history, it's like you have a blank page and then all of a sudden you have all of this text. And so you know that somebody's copied and pasted something in. And so I guess version history would be a really great way as a teacher if you think that, yeah, this is something I've seen before, to see if, look and see what the work was done on it. I mean, version history can be great for that capability. Does that answer that question?
Yes, that did. Thank you,
Okay.
Julie.
All right, so we went through a lot of stuff there on that setup and everything. So what I'd like you to do right now is pop back over to your Google Classroom and dash through your notifications and settings, and just make sure that you've thought about that, and I mean, you don't have to solidify anything. So I'll just give you 5 minutes to look at your settings and your grading categories, and make sure that everything is how you would like it, or at least you found it, before we move on. On the organization, settings, et cetera, as we look at that.
We've got some really good discussions going on here with the grades things. So
Oh, great. I've unleashed the grade discussion. I'm sorry.
well, grades and notifications and filling those in. There's some, I mean, they're doing the assignment. It's going really well.
Good. All right, so this is probably my favorite part of Google Classroom, is the topics. And so when we're looking at Google Classroom, and so I'll pop over and look at the classwork, you will see that you have topics, and so I've organized kind of ours by big topic areas, and so we did the storage, we did Teams meetings, but I will add in the Zoom and the Google Meet, and so that will turn into probably online meetings. Um, and then we're doing this setup Google Classroom, and so you can see exactly, and so I can filter by topics on the left hand side if I want, and then you'll also notice that I have materials here, which are just that's just what they are, as materials. The other cool thing is I can drag and drop my topics around, and so if I wanted to say, today we're doing setup Google Classroom, and so I'm going to have that be at the top of the page, I can do that. I can move things around as I need to. And so one of the things that really helps is when you think about how you want to organize your Google Classroom. And so I've got two different articles that both go through how to organize your Google Classroom. The first one is by Ditch That Textbook. And he talks about, you know, using the topics in a way that works best for you. And so, you know, he has you answer, you know, think about if it was a filing cabinet with folders, what would you put on those tabs, you know? And you can change your mind. Like, remember, I'm going to change the Teams meetings. I'm going to edit this topic. I can rename it, and I'm going to call it online meetings, Teams, Zoom, and Meet. There, you know, I mean, and so boom, I can change that to make it more appropriate. So nothing you really do is permanent, which is nice. So these are just things to think about. One way you can structure is by week. And so you can have all of your assignments for a week listed out. You can sort by unit. You can sort by subject or topic. You can also sort by file type. And so like if you want to say, here's all your assignments, here's all your materials. So they don't have subtopics in Google Classroom, but they do have, you can creatively make subtopics. And so you'll see what he did here with in Ditch That Textbook is he has, you know, chapter 1, lesson 1, water cycle, you know, and so he's basically created subtopics by how he named his topics. One of the things he talks about is being really consistent. And then the other thing that can really help is using emojis or parenthetical abbreviations as tags. And so you're going to see here, like he has added little emojis on. And that's one of the things that I try to do too in my my classes is give you guys kind of a, you know, emoji or a visual to tag onto what you're looking at. And so that's kind of, so he gives that instruction. Cassie Bell also does quite a bit with Google Classroom. And she talks a lot about how to organize also. And so this is one of the things that, like, she starts out with like classroom materials, and then she does stuff with today, and she's moving things around on her little GIF here, so that's why things are moving. It's not me, it's not you, it's her. But so she has topics like today, classroom materials, bell ringers, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we're looking at hers, she likes to use that organization structure. So here we have organizing by units or modules, organizing by week, type of assignment, subject area. And so elementary, this is one way you can do yours is by subject area if you want to, because if you only want to use one classroom, you could utilize the different subject areas and post your assignments, have your new assignments be at the top of every section. You can also organize by adding a today topic. And this is one that I've seen used really successfully just because you can have, you know, this is what we're doing today, and then you can assign it to the appropriate topics later, but it does mean that you are moving assignments around. You can also organize by learning target. And so a couple of you talked about organizing by standard. And then here, she really recommends disabling the announcement alerts in the stream, and I recommend it too, just because it gets so chaotic in the stream. But that's totally up to you. So we talk about that. So, and then the other thing that you can't do in Google Classroom is you can't, when an assignment has gone past, it's still there. It doesn't go anywhere. It's still hanging out on your Google Classroom site. You'll notice when you are a student, and so if you guys have turned in your assignments as a student, we should see that your assignments are grayed out. And see, and I haven't turned anything in, and so they just hang out there. So if it was grayed out, I would have turned it in, but I obviously haven't turned anything in yet. So that is a big frustration that I hear from a lot of teachers, is the fact that your classes, your assignments are always there. And so one of the things some teachers do is they create a past assignments, and then when an assignment is complete or you're no longer accepting work, you can move it down there. And so that'll mess up your organization. So I don't have great answers for that. It's just one of the things within how Google Classroom is. So those are some of the things as you're thinking about setting up your classroom and setting up your classroom. You know, what topics do you plan to use? And that's where, and you guys have been rocking out over here on the slides with how you want to organize and how you're planning on organize your resources. And so I think that'll be good. Questions about topics, because this is one of those things that I think is well, you're not set in stone. Having a good structure can really help make your classroom work for you. Okay, so that's your topics. And so I do kind of ask you in your assignment here, you know, what topics do you plan to use? And then we go in and we look at the stream a little bit more closely. And like I loved, you know, when we were talking about the stream in the demo class and looking at the settings, like how some of you guys used it with your students last year. One of the really nice things is you can reuse a post in your stream. And so I can go back and I can say, you know, I can reuse a post that's from another class, or even this class if I wanted to. I can edit it. I can attach. I can edit attachments, and so I do not need to recreate the wheel. You'll notice I can also assign to multiple classes if I want to. So if I want to give the same announcement out, you know, especially if I'm teaching multiple sections, I can send it out to multiple classes. I can also customize and just send it to certain students. And so this is really great for like your special ed teachers or any of the specials teachers that are pushing into classrooms. They can share announcements just to their student, and so only their student will see that. So whoever I share this with is the only students that will see it. So you can really customize that. I can save this as a draft. I can schedule it just like I scheduled an assignment, and so I can schedule exactly when that shows up. And so I don't have to recreate the wheel. And so that's what I like about the announcements, is it gives you that ability to make sure that you tell all of your classes the same thing. You can do that. if you are like in your building, if your admin creates a class and wants you to share out daily announcements every day, they can make you all teachers in that class, and then you can reuse the announcements from the announcements class. And so the daily announcements could be posted on your stream very easily. I mean, so just lots of different things that you can do with the announcements to build community, to have students, to be able to share information, and know that the announcements go out in the parent, um, in the parent in the guardian summaries also. So anything I put in the announcements that I put in as a teacher will go out to the guardian summaries. So really, the stream is a really powerful tool that you can do some really great things with. So I've given you some info on stream. And then finally, we have classwork. And so I gave you that sample assignment very, very early on today, and kind of showed you how all that works. Couple of things that I dropped in here. You can reuse assignments from other classes. You can schedule assignments. You can save them as a draft. You can assign it to selected students. You can assign it to multiple classes. But the one thing you can't do is you cannot unpublish an assignment. And so a couple weeks ago, I had a number of some teachers, that they were going in and making their posts, and then they would post something, and then they would say, "Oh shoot, I really don't want this posted because I want to post it, on the second week of class." So what do you do? I can go in, and I'm not going to delete anything here because you guys have done work, but I can go in to my assignments. I can reuse, and I can reuse assignments from the class that I'm currently in. And so I can go in and I can say, I'll do it to day one recording. So I'm going to say day one recording. I'm going to reuse that. It's going to pull up here and have all the information I need, but I don't want to have that posted yet. I want to post it. I'm going to schedule it and have it post in a couple minutes. So I'm just going to schedule it to post in a few minutes. So it's scheduled here. Now I can go and delete this assignment. Except I don't want to delete it because I shared out the link. But I can delete this assignment if I haven't done anything with it. And so if you accidentally post something or publish your assignment and you're like, I don't want it published, you can reuse a post and then delete the post that you made previously. So there is a workaround. It is just so frustrating though, because it would be nice to be able to reuse your assignment, or you'll be able to unpublish and publish at will, because that would make life so much easier. So now you guys, I'll give you a little bit more time to look at assignments, topics, stream, and just kind of think about that. Also, this is a chance to go back and work on your Google Slides, the shared slides, and make sure that you've answered those questions there too. I will, and ask me questions. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes here to do that, and then we'll come back and look at some of the resources and answer questions before we kick it off for the day. Okay, so I took a second and I looked and I see that I've got 28 turned in and 26 are still assigned. So that's super awesome. So one of the things that this assignment was an example of was we did two different things with this assignment. Not only did we get to do each of you had your own document that you could edit and turn in. You also had a collaborative slides, which I'm having so much fun going through and checking out. And if I have a question or anything, I will add a comment. And so when you're looking at your slide, if you see the little comment over on the left-hand side, right below the slide number, excuse me, then you will know that your slide, you have a comment on your slide, and I'm not sure what is happening on this slide right now. Ashley, I think you've been taken over. um, That's what revision history is good for. And here again, revision history is awesome for this kind of work because I can go in, I can look at File, Version History, and then see Version History. And I can see, because everybody's logged in as themselves, I can see exactly what's happened on this slide deck. And so if something gets deleted, or if somebody's like, yeah, my stuff got deleted, we can go back in time. And so that is huge, to be able to pull up revision history and restore versions, or even just, you know, copy and paste what was deleted and paste it in the current version. So remember, version history can be amazing for, you know, seeing what kind of work people did. The other thing though, and I'm going to, I know I'm guilty of this. I'm the typer, and so when I work with people, I'm the one who types. I'm the one who takes the notes. I'm the one who does things. And I have a couple of colleagues that are the talkers, and they will brainstorm and throw out all these great ideas, and I'm typing like crazy. And so while we are working collaboratively, if you go back and look at version history, it looks like I've done all the work and they haven't done anything. And so when we do collaborative work, I really encourage you to have there be like some sort of an exit ticket or some sort of a review, where the students describe, I did all the typing while Sally did all the talking, I mean, and kind of have that going on, rather than talk about, rather than say, oh, it looks like, Sally didn't do any work, because that's not necessarily true. But revision history can be huge, a wonderful tool to help you save the day, um, see who's done the work, all that stuff. But so we did,
Julie,
yeah.
when I used to have the kids collaborate, you can go in and assign particular kids to be editors that day. And so like if this was a week-long unit, you could have, person A be the typer that day, and then you block them the next day, and person B has to be the typer. But you can actually go in and give individuals edit capability and everybody else view at the same time.
And that's true. So yeah, so you can definitely control the access there. But I just don't, when we're sending the kids out, especially with the potential for students to be at home or in different locations, we tend to lose some of that control because we're not in the classroom with them. And so, kind of like how to allow that authentic, experience, but yet not say that, so-and-so does all the work too. So, but yeah, I love that idea to be able to control who does that. So these are collaborative slides. You guys can hop in and check them out. I really I encourage you guys to look at each other's, like how they're structuring, et cetera, just because you may get ideas, or you can ask each other questions and say, can you explain that a little more? Because I'm always learning different ways to like organize, or the best way to structure. The other thing with this assignment was you had the Google Classrooms, setting up your classroom, kind of that basic document. That one was assigned to everyone. So everybody got a copy. Every student has a copy. With this assignment, because everybody got it, when I come in and I look at my student work, I can see what's happened. And the other cool thing, and I love this, is if I scroll on down, who should I pick on? I'll pick on myself. So I can go in and I can look at this assignment, and I can see that nothing's happened yet, but I could go in and I could add comments, or I could send a private comment. So I can actually interact with the document and the student while it is being written. And so that is just an amazing resource, because I don't have to wait until this document is handed in to be able to interact. So notice it says it's due tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All the assignments are, I mean, we're all adults. All I'm trying to have you do is see what it's like to be a student. And so you can see what notifications you get. You can see what it looks like to have a due date. You can see what it looks like to have a time. You can, all of that stuff. And so if you don't get it turned in by tomorrow at 10, I don't care. I'm not going to worry about it. It's mainly just, this is so you can kind of see what it looks like. Because one of the things that I think is most frustrating is Google Classroom does not have a view as student option. And so unless you join the classroom with your personal Gmail account and log in multiple times, or join the classroom with one of your own children's accounts, you don't necessarily know what it looks like. And so that's why I wanted you guys to see, when you have an assignment, this is what it looks like. When you put a time on it, this is what it looks like. When you don't put a time on it, this is what it looks like. And so that kind of stuff. So don't worry about the due dates. I know we're all busy. So any questions or comments before we wrap it up for the day?
Everybody says no and much better and thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Same time, same place, same Zoom link tomorrow. And we'll be hanging out with a little bit of screencasting and a little bit more Google Classroom, and how to deal with those PDFs that we all know and love. So Cindy, I do have a quick question for you on PDFs. So if you want to, I don't know, call me or just hang out. I don't care.
Hey, I'll give you a call.
Okay, thank you. All right. See you guys tomorrow.